Good morning. Welcome to Wednesdays, no, Thursdays, early morning intuitive guidance. Yeah, it's one of those days already. So, I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum. Here with some words of wisdom to start your day off well. And we have a lovely section to share from a book that we did a deep dive into several years ago. And I always find it useful to go back and review the wonderful stuff that we've learned to keep it fresh. Good morning, Jonil. Glad you are here. Welcome. Happy Thursday. Hope you're finally dug out. My plow guy showed up a half an hour before I needed to be where I needed to be. Worked out great, though. Good morning, Barb. Welcome. And what I noticed was I wasn't nearly as wound up about it as I would have been in the past. It was kind of like, well, Mother Nature's doing her thing. We'll see what we can do. Good morning, Abigail. Glad you're here. Got to see what we got. A cardinal. Looks like a mountaintop, sunshine, rainbow. Fabulous. Good morning, Gwen. Welcome, welcome. So 3 of you on Facebook and 1 of you on YouTube at the moment. We'll see who else joins us as we go here. But we are going back and doing a little bit of review from Sharon Ellison's Taking the War Out of Our Words, which right now in life, why not? Right? That is going to be a wonderful investment of our time. Good morning, Nancy. Welcome. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Everybody's rolling in today. This is good. This is good. So what that also tells me is this particular portion that we're going to be working on is highly relevant. Highly relevant. It's kind of like my little idiosyncrasy around Tosha Silver, that when there's 2 quotes at the beginning of the chapter, it's going to be a really good chapter. Yes, I did get plowed out. And the poor guy, well, first of all, I can tell I'm aging because he looks like he's about 12. And I saw him walking up the driveway on his phone, and I'm like, oh, he has no idea where he's supposed to shove all this snow. So I popped out on the porch and said, are you trying to figure out where to push all of this? And he's got these big eyes and said yes. And so I explained that we've got a shed that's in the backyard. I said, sock the shed in. It does not matter. Put it all there. So by the time I was leaving to go meet this woman over at the warehouse, he was still working on the back slab and all of the getting into the garage doors, because that's where it decided it was going to berm up. So yeah, I know many of my friends in the UP are still waiting to be plowed out. Yeah, but the power didn't go out. I was on my call with them on Tuesday, and several of them said that's certainly the kind of storm that would have knocked the power out for hours and everybody would have been on their generators, but it did not. Who knows? Maybe the grid is improving. So we're going to be reading part of chapter 12, the non-defensive mind and heart set. The non-defensive mind and heart set. So let's get ourselves a little ready for that. First, let's warm your hands up. Yes, very grateful the power didn't go out. That makes everything so complicated. I mean, some of my friends up there, their toilets don't even flush if you don't have electricity. Okay, put them over your heart. Take a breath. Feel that humming energy in your hands, exchanging with your heart energy. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let your shoulders drop. Feeling your heart opening to this idea that we can prepare ourselves to be non-defensive. Breathe in. Breathe out. And welcome to those of you who popped on that your names aren't rolling. I still haven't figured. I'm assuming it's LinkedIn where there's people on live and I can't see them one by one. Good morning, Beth. Glad you're here. Breathe in. Breathe out. So this is about preparing ourselves to be non-defensive. We all know what it feels like when we've prepared. You know, this year I'm going to be able to get through dealing with Uncle Harry at Thanksgiving. It's going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. And Uncle Harry says one thing and our hair lights on fire, right? So this is, how do we prep in a way that is sustainable? Not in that I'm just using my mind to prep and it doesn't last. It doesn't take much to light me up like the Christmas tree. So take a breath. Let it go. The non-defensive mind and heart set. In order to integrate the process of asking sincere questions, exposing our thoughts and feelings, and making firm predictions, we need to make internal shifts in our attitudes and expectations. Non-defensiveness is not a technique that involves a script, although she does have a lot of vignettes in here where she provides words, which for me are incredibly helpful. Show me how to do this. Don't just tell me how to do it. Show me it. Demonstrate it. So she puts little vignettes in there, telling the stories, which I found very helpful. Any single topic presents us with countless ways to express ourselves non-defensively. That's kind of heartwarming, right? There's not just one way to do this. We can do it in multiple ways. Because the cornerstone of non-defensive communication is sincerity, we have to sincerely want to understand where the other person's coming from, not just pose a question to provoke them or pose a question in order to set up for us getting to say what we want to say. It's we sincerely want to understand where they're coming from. Even if where they're coming from seems totally wackadoodle to us, maybe there's some reasoning in there that if we understood it, would be helpful. Let's see. Because the cornerstone of non-defensive communication is sincerity, a vital part of strengthening our non-defensive skills involves consistent focus on being more sincere and more open. We can learn much more rapidly if we prepare ourselves with a non-defensive mindset and heart set. So, she talks about pacing. As a child, I had some trouble with the story of the tortoise and the hare. I really had to concentrate to understand why the tortoise won the race instead of the rabbit. I remember thinking, well, if the rabbit can run so much faster, how could the tortoise win? Any of you wondered that? I certainly wondered that. If the rabbit ran around and did other things and didn't stay on track, maybe he just didn't care if he won. He could have won if he wanted to. Besides, maybe he was having more fun than the tortoise was, just plodding along. At the time, I liked the rabbit better, and I felt protective because of the bad press he was getting. I like this woman. She thinks like I think. As I grew older, I learned to appreciate one of the fable's lessons. Haste makes waste. Now I appreciate both the tortoise and the hare. Her next little section is entitled The Costs of a Frenetic Pace. Are any of you to the point in life where when it is a frenetic pace, you feel resentful and irritable? Like, I don't want to be moving this fast anymore. I did all that in my 20s and 30s. I was Mach 3 with my hair on fire. Don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. So, the increase in the pace of people's lives in the last several decades would leave both the hare and the tortoise in the dust. A corporate manager recently told me he wasn't sure his job was worth its 6-digit salary because he had not had a full day off with his family in 3 years, including Christmas. It's been jokingly said that every yuppie family has to have 3 calendars to keep their various schedules straight. A family with only 1 or 2 calendars loses status. Yet there is nothing truly funny about couples who barely see each other before they fall into bed at night and seldom see their children except during transition times in the car. I found the car was the place where conversation happened because it was the only time everybody was sitting still together. We did do family dinner. That I insisted on. I find it hard now to move. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm the person who turns the radio down so I can figure out where to turn. Yeah. And there's something to be said for that pace. There is something to be said for that pace. And when you think about vacations, people who run around like maniacs go on vacation. It takes them 3 days to unwind. Then they do nothing. And then they come back and then they work really hard because now they have to pay off that vacation. Anybody else find something weird about that? Yeah. Let's see. In single-parent families or two-parent families, the parent or parents may be working two jobs. They see little of their families and get little rest. Millions of us are functioning in a workaholic frenzy. And given the economic environment and the rate of pay at some jobs, not sustainable, not life-sustaining levels of pay. The minimum wage is abysmal, abysmal. There's no way you can live on that. No way. And so there are many people who are working multiple jobs. There are people who there's so many people in the house because sometimes parents are leaving kids alone because they're working 2 or 3 full-time jobs, no sleep whatsoever, right? Not sustainable. Not sustainable. Many people are in such a hurry that they overlook important details and thereby usher in confusion or even major crisis. That's what happened with my plow person. He wasn't communicating what's going on. At the end, I mean, certainly I knew he was up to his eyeballs. There was no way he wasn't up to his eyeballs. But to convey that would have been helpful. Look, we're on this job. That'll take us about a half an hour. You're the third one after that, blah, blah, blah. Then I can do the math in my head and get a sense of when he's going to show up. It's when we have no idea. There is the unknown again. There's the unknown causing that problem. And for several days, I did the unknown's an okay thing. But as it got closer and closer to that appointment time yesterday, it was harder and harder to hang on to that. Let's see. People may fail to realize that their own inattention to vital details is a major source of the dilemma. We fall into a vicious cycle, too busy putting out the fire of one crisis to pay enough attention to prevent the next crisis. I always called it plate spinning. Got all the plates spinning, and can I keep them all spinning? And there's too many of them spinning. Yeah. Our frenetic lifestyle also contributes to the number of crises we face because it amplifies our defensiveness. Think about the person who's working, they're tearing around, and you say, Jane, what? It's very hard to be placid and in the moment and present and calm when you're tearing around like a maniac trying to keep all those plates spinning. When someone is left at daycare, each parent thinking the other was to pick the child up, it is easy to argue about who is to blame and who's going to pay for therapy 20 years hence. Yeah. When people are not notified of an important meeting about one phase of a project going on, their resentment carries into the next phase. Because of this sustained pace, the idea of taking the time to shift into being non-defensive may seem unrealistic. How long it takes to communicate non-defensively is a crucial issue, to which I have one dual reaction. The hare and the tortoise both win the race on this one. Slowing down. We do have to slow down in preparing to speak non-defensively. Unlearning our defensive reactions is a deliberate process, right? Oftentimes we're already into it. We're flying off the handle and we're however far down that road before we go, oops, wait a minute, back up. And sometimes we feel then like we are already committed to blowing up and we keep going. Get the ego out of the way there, folks. Wait, hold it, stop. I'm losing my shit here and this is not appropriate. Let me back up. Let me take a breath. Say it. Put it out there. Make the adjustment. Otherwise, you keep doing what you keep doing, you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten. Do something different. She says, first, we stop and catch ourselves when we react in old habitual ways. Then we think about how to do it differently. Then we actually do it. Now, really, that whole process is a couple of minutes, right? It's not, and it prevents us from going down that same messy rabbit hole that recreates the same chaos over and over and over. This is frequently difficult, especially during interactions that may be loaded with conflicting feelings and thoughts. For this reason, and the ones discussed below, we may need to walk with the tortoise for a while. So the first thing is learning a new skill can create confusion. Learning a skill that is very similar yet different from another one we already know can cause confusion and add difficulty to the learning process. So think about asking questions. We all ask questions, right? But now we're asking questions in a different way. We're asking to understand. We're asking to de escalate. We're not asking to poke the bear. We're not asking to get a response so we can retort. It's different. It's different. So she says, if after learning to type, we undertake learning to ski, typing would not in any way interfere with learning to ski. On the other hand, if we are skilled at tennis and decide to take up racquetball, it will be harder because there are subtle but crucial differences in gripping the racket and in the timing and motion of the swing. Even as a tennis player, when the coach would adjust my grip just a little bit, it felt weird for a period of time until I got used to it. So I totally get this. The more disparate the things, typing and skiing, the easier it is to not have them interfere with each other. The more similar they are, the tennis game versus the racquetball game, the more difficulty you're likely to have adjusting to each. When we shift our way of reacting from defensive to non-defensive, we still use questions, statements, and predictions. But our intention is different. Our tone is different. So if we're saying to somebody, well, what do you mean by that? Or what do you mean by that? There's a difference, isn't there? There's a difference. And our phrasing is sometimes different too. We may leave out provocative words. Because these differences can be subtle, they may be hard to notice as we attempt to change our way of speaking. If we expect to have some difficulty making the transition and know we need to pay careful attention, we can make the process more relaxed. Now, I want to add in here too, think about that from the other person's perspective. They don't know that you're making this switch, right? So they may still react in the same old defensive ways they have. Your job is to stay in alignment with being non-defensive. Keep coming from the non-defensive perspective. Eventually, they'll pick up something has changed. And they may escalate because they want to pop you back into fighting. Stay the course. Stay the course. She says it helps to try a gradual approach. Once people learn this non-defensive process, they invariably say, I now see how constantly defensive we all are. If I dealt with every defensive reaction I saw in myself or others, it would take me 24 hours a day and I'd still never get through it all. True, true. Which is why, as coaches, so certainly when I was a psychotherapist, we just have people practice a few minutes a day. Like when I was teaching parents how to interact with young children that were struggling with being oppositional. The goal was 5 minutes a day. Practice for 5 minutes a day. If you want to sprinkle in a couple of 5 minutes, fine. Keep it little. It starts leaking over. You're learning something new. Begins to leak over. It's like practicing a new language. You don't cram it. You don't sit there for 5 hours trying to learn Spanish. Little chunks, right? Little chunks. Chunk it down. The sheer quantity of material we are dealing with can make change seem time consuming. Because it's overwhelming to most people to think about making a major shift to interacting non defensively, I think it is essential to embrace the effectiveness of a gradual approach. Presence of mind is essential. A critical part of slowing down is to focus carefully on our own words and those of the other person. When another person is speaking, we cannot let our minds wander or rush on to the next point. Be here now. Be here now. Be here now. Be present. Be fully present. Pay attention. I oftentimes have that going in my head because my mind is 5 steps down the road in terms of the interaction. No, right here, right now. Stay present. Stay focused. It's effortful to begin with. Once you get the hang of it, it gets easier, like learning anything new. Non-defensive communication requires genuine dialogue. It requires presence of mind. So I'm going to read one more little section here and then we'll wrap it up. saving time and energy, getting quick results. Although we initially may have to slow down and expend some energy on creating the proper mindset and heart set, the slower pace can ultimately save us time and energy and afford quick results. When we're not going off on that 3-day huff with somebody, it saves a whole lot of time. When we're clear and we're not operating from a misunderstanding, it takes a whole lot of time. Absolutely. It is called Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication, and it's by Sharon Ellison. It is awesome. And actually, I'm trying to think. It's on my YouTube channel. There is what do we call those? A series. I have a series of my virtual assistant pulled out all of the early morning intuitive guidances that we did on the book. So they're all clustered together. So if I can remember, I will try to pull the link for that and put it in the feed. Good question. Thank you. Let's see what else it says here. It requires presence of mind. Okay, so let's see. Down here we are. As I mentioned at the end of part 1, I think we waste massive amounts of energy in power struggle. Anybody else? Amen. We waste massive amounts of energy in power struggle, a process that binds us to others through adversity. Wouldn't we much prefer to be bound to our loved ones through joy and happiness than adversity? But it gets addictive. Think, if you will, how much time you can spend absorbed by what one person has said that upset you. Learning even a little bit at a time to be more non-defensive can free up our energy for more creative use. So, thoughts on this? For those of you who walked through the whole book with me, how helpful was this to review this? For me, it's like, okay, I need to take the time to really settle in. There was a meeting last night. There was a little part in that meeting where they call it having tension, that we had tension. And I felt a little bit defensive. So if that meeting were tonight instead of last night, I think I would do a better job of going, all right, what's going on in here? What am I feeling defensive? How do I want to handle this? What's an appropriate way to handle this? And I think it would have gone a little bit better. So I invite us all to practice today. Today's mission, should you choose to accept it, is to practice this non-defensive way of approaching things. Don't make assumptions about what someone else is thinking. Actually ask the question, are you saying this or are you saying that? And do it in as calm a voice as possible. The hardest part about this whole process is moving yourself back into that place of being the curious observer, asking the curious questions with true sincerity. That takes practice. We're all capable. All right. So that's it for today. Happy Thursday. Have an awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you are capable of far more than you think you are. Bye-bye. We'll see you tomorrow.